Exodemic is a tiny roguelike on-rails shooter where you're in a race against a virus. Of course, the stakes are incredibly high. You must save the entire human race! What's one more time? This is a one run to win kind of game. You start with just the ship on your back, and there's no power-ups or upgrades to unlock. Exodemic might be a little more complicated than you expect, so let me explain. This is some early game footage. Now, the point is to destroy all the green enemies that exit out of a planet, and then move on to the next set of planets and do it all over again, over and over until you complete the entire map. Along the way, you will find shops and other things to improve your ship, but the goal is the same throughout. There isn't any different kind of missions. You only must rotate the planets and shoot. You're trapped on that orbit and you don't have any control over your speed. Sorta. You can jump to another planet from those specific jump points, but it might change the direction you're flying around the planet. So you can shoot and then jump between the planets, but the last button you have is a dash, which if it's not upgraded, you only get one of them. But it does reset if you jump to a new planet. So you might want to plan your route accordingly. With upgrades, your dash can become a weapon. So you might want to jump to a planet, dash, jump back, dash again. All right, so here's the first shop I encountered on this run. I can increase my dash distance, duration, or destroy enemies within 30 units of my dash. Keep in mind there are different levels of each upgrade, so one might give 50% more dash while another might give 100% more dash. If the game seems pretty simple from everything I've described so far, then yeah, you got it. It's not a very difficult game to comprehend. However, there are some nuances about shooting that you must be aware of. The shots always fly through the planet, never parallel to it. Sometimes it's even easier to line up the shot when you're behind the enemy instead of being in front of them. Especially later on when some of the enemies wiggle back and forth. Those are so frustrating to hit. There are also some enemies that will shoot at you and you must dodge them because as you can see, this ship I'm currently flying has only 3 hit points, which is not a lot. And you don't want to waste your scrap on repairing the ship when you can put it towards upgrades. This format is pretty addicting though, because the rounds are so small, you constantly get new planets to fly around, so it changes up how you're going to be playing. There's no one strategy to fit every planetary system. It's more about thinking on your feet and making judgment calls to shoot the enemies that are the most dangerous or the ones that are flying to the edges the fastest. And then you also need to figure out when you want to jump to a new planet so that you can use your dash, since it could be the easiest weapon to use to kill everything. Having those AoE attacks is very useful for the small enemies that are very difficult to hit. Here's an example of another shop where I can increase my energy bank or increase the ship speed, which will make things more difficult to shoot, but then you can get to places faster and hopefully hit them sooner before they reach the edge. The shops are the weakest part of Exodemic. They don't make a ton of sense why there are so many. Sure, there are some for weapons or the ship's speed or power or dashing. That stuff makes sense. But there's one shop where you can duplicate items, and as long as I've played, I couldn't figure out why that was required. Having 2 items that do the same thing is fine, I guess, and if you want to duplicate 2 items and then merge them in the merger, that's also fine, but a more direct way to play is to buy the items you find along your run and then use the upgrader guy to upgrade them into a more powerful version of the ones you want. It's much simpler, I don't have to use the ship storage, and I don't have to think a lot about what I'm going to plan to do, and hopefully that shop appears later or else I've wasted a whole bunch of money because my plan didn't come to fruition. Anyway, as I said in the intro, you're doing this to save the human race from a virus. I'm guessing these green enemies are the virus, and they're coming out of these planets. If you don't kill them all before they reach the planet's edge, then they will increase the viral load on the entire universe. if you don't kill them in time, they will increase the viral load on the entire universe. It makes a horrible sound, and it's painful every time you hear it. I'm actually about to hear it right now. Yeah, there it is. So that sound plays, your viral load in the bottom, the X, goes up 1, and now you're a little bit closer to death. Every time you go to a new node that isn't one of the green ones to defeat the virus load goes up. So taking those branching paths with the shops and upgrades will make you closer to death, but maybe it'll also make you better at defeating the enemies. It sure does seem like that virus bar is awfully large, but let me tell you, it adds up quick. You can remove some of the virus from the world with the pill shops. You can pay, I think it's about 50 scrap to remove some of the virus, which helps you along the run. So it's probably a good idea to make sure to hit each one of those on your run. Just to quickly touch on the procedurally generated map, it's not going to be the same every time. That's what procedural generation does for this. So each run will play a little differently. Here's another example, and it's pretty easy to compare the two. Note that the map size does not change even on a different difficulty. Speaking of difficulty, this is where you select that. Before starting a run, you get to select a ship. For the entire run, you cannot change during, and you also get to select the difficulty level. You can still see the differences in the ships, even though I don't have them unlocked in this video clip. I did unlock another one. You only have to finish easy to unlock the first one. Overall, Exodemic is pretty good and slightly addicting. Let's face it, it's not a very deep game. With only 3 buttons to play, how much could they possibly fit in here? And some of the shops are a little weird, but they don't ruin the experience. I definitely enjoyed playing this game and went on a few more runs than I expected. Also, I think as always, I admire when a developer is capable of making something that's small enough in scope for them to complete, and also something that's fun to play. I recommend Exodemic to anyone that likes simple and short games. Also, anyone that enjoys a one run to finish the whole thing kind of game, especially where a little bad luck in the procedural generation can ruin your run, but you would enjoy overcoming that challenge. That's the conclusion of the video. Glad you watched this one all the way to the end. Subscribe, and this is your lovable video creator, Pepp's Picks, signing off.